Yeah. And then just...
Hey Nova, you like chest rigs?
Intern? You mean the CEO?
The CEO of the Nova Group. Where do you think she'd like to be?
Perfect.
Thank you for your cooperation, boss.
Hey Hop, what are you drinking today?
Why, I'm drinking a Brock Old Fashioned. Or as I call it, a Brock Fashioned.
I am drinking... Why am I using a possum patches? I'm drinking also a Brock Old Fashioned, because we're in the same house and I made it. I already finished mine. But today we're going to be talking about chest rigs and the absolute clusterfuck of trying to find a good chest rig. So I already have a video at this point discussing the difference between chest rigs and micro rigs, but something that you can't really understate is that there's no such thing, or it's very hard to find the perfect chest rig because you get very precise stitching. So a lot of times, like I said, in that video, you're going to have to trial and error and just buy a lot of things. If you know pistol holsters, this is the same thing. And that's kind of what we've ended up here with a disgusting amount of nylon that costs more than it should. And honestly, it's quite shameful.
Yeah, I think what you end up doing is you either spend a lot of time shopping for the perfect sewn chest rig. I guess we should start immediately by differentiating between like a sewn versus a modular. So a sewn, completely sewn chest rig has all the pouches on it that it will ever have on it, and you buy that as a complete thing. Modular chest rigs are often just a blank field of MOLLE. You have to attach all your own pouches. The advantage of the sewn chest rig, I guess, is that you're going to get all the pouches that you want, ideally, and there's going to be less weight, less bulk. Because there's not going to be multiple layers, you know, the fabric layer of the chest rig, all of the pals, all of the pal straps, and then the pals on the opposite, you know. Mm-hmm. In theory, a proper sewn chest rig should be a lot nicer, should be more stable, more durable, lighter, cheaper.
Yeah.
But are you going to find the one for you right off the bat? Probably not. So you may end up buying a couple.
May not happen. So we're going to go through, who the fuck knows how many, five chest rigs, and lightning fast, our thoughts on it, why we decided to probably... You know, we bought it, why we liked it initially, why we ultimately said, hey, it's not for me, or hey, this is not great, and then we moved on to a new one, and then ultimately what we've settled with thus far.
I think you start off with it. We are starting with the humblest of all God's creatures, the Helicon TMR. Helicon? It's called the TMR, Training Mini Rig, which is a very accurate name because the design of this chest rig is obviously intended for range training because it has 4 AR mag slots and 4 pistol mag slots. You don't need 4 pistol mag slots on your chest rig. You in fact need 0. I think is a number we could agree on. But you know, it's a good chest rig, and I've recommended these for a long time for people who are like, hey, I really need some tack gear because I just need to check that box. I need to have some way to carry ammunition and stuff. And these are like $100, and
really?
they're all put together, right? And there's also I've messed with this one a little bit. These come with a medical dangler down below. I removed it, stuck it on my backpack, put a little tourniquet loop in here instead. So like that's a pretty complete system for about $100. And maybe they got discontinued. I'm not even sure, which would be a shame. It's okay to just leave the pistol pouches empty too.
No, you got to fill it. So the first one gets a flashlight, then you put a multi-tool, and then you start getting desperate. It's like, well, the stickers kind of fits in there, and
yeah, maybe like a little battery cell, and then you're like, okay, I guess I'll take a Glock mag. I might find a Glock in the field and be like, oh, if only I had a mag for it. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, GP pouch at the front with some organization, 4 AR mag slots with retention, basic H harness, well made, inexpensive.
It kind of reminds me a lot of a micro rig. Like it's a micro rig that's like hard sewn, almost like a Haley Strategic D3W CMR M.
This is kind of like the end state of a lot of micro rigs. Like this is what people tend to build micro rigs out to be, especially if you include the dangler. So it's almost like, why buy? Because the base micro rig is probably going to cost you about as much as this, plus pouches, plus
way more.
Danglers,
like the Haley is probably the cheapest micro rig, and that's like $170 baseline.
Yeah.
You need to buy more shit. So, yeah, I think this is a good example. Like, it's cheap, It's compact. It does a lot of what we want out of a rig, but at the end of the day, you run into the issues of like, damn it, this has a lot of stuff I don't want, and I can't take it off. So let's find something that has the stuff I do want, and go from there. All right. So next up is the Platatac Mark V Peacekeeper. I did it, and you can probably see her. Get your other one out here. This is a step up in.
The dog will let me have it back.
Yeah. This is a step up in size. So what you get is a flap style system, 1, 2, 3. So it means you can have 3 mags, kind of minimum, if we want to call it that, and 6 mags total. Though you can absolutely repurpose one of these for like a, who the fuck knows? None of you have, grenades, but you could, in theory, put a grenade pouch in here, or a grenade in here, tighten it down. Maybe it's a flashbang, so even smaller, tighten it down more. I don't know, an islid, who the fuck knows? So you can put a lot of things in, or even medical, and still run 4 magazines, which is the same as the Helicon we saw earlier, or you can run 6, whatever. You got a number of features like, well, you can put your, your gloves or your wet bullshit in here, put more stuff in the back, right? The world is your oyster. The big domineering features is that it's very horizontal, right? And there are downsides to being a very super horizontal chest rig, but there are upsides, right? Micro rigs are super small, but they load up heavily on the admin capability, or whatever you want to call it, with little pouches and bullshit up front. But my God, what is prone? You can never go prone again because you have so much stuff up here. Well, this tries to solve that problem by growing horizontally, but it really wants to load up on...
It's the urban sprawl of chest rigs.
Yeah, it's the urban sprawl of chest rigs. But, it wants to be a big boy. We have very large GP pouches on the side, and a lot of just stuff we can put in the back. Gloves in the back here, right? You're running and gunning. I don't want gloves right now. Oh, now we're chilling. My heart rate's coming down. Oh, I want my gloves. Pull out the gloves. I want more magazines. I don't know if you'd want more than 6, but let's put more magazines in. I want a hat. I don't want my hat. I want my hat. I don't want my hat. I want my hat. Put it in here. The list goes on. So you do have a fair bit of capability here. It comes with a built-in, functionally speaking, a built-in Faro concept dangler, right? It's actually built in. And on top of that, we also have double rows of molly. And you'll see one of the chest rigs that comes up. It's very similar in that configuration. We get an X harness, but it also comes with a H harness. So we get a lot of really cool features here. GP capability. And if you want these big fucking GP pouches alongside molly to have stuff like a radio pouch, maybe first aid here, and then put mission essentials in here, then this might be the chest rig for you. But ultimately, I moved away from this chest rig, not because of the build design, because of the quality or whatever. I moved away from it because it's not for me. And it's a 2-factor thing. A, I don't need this much GP. Like, I don't know what I'm putting in here, right? Because fundamentally, right, a lot of people get into this idea that you can sustain off of a chest rig. I know you wanted me to get into that.
I was going to ask, can I say the S word?
Can I say the S word? Yeah. A lot of people think you can sustain off of something like this, but these are still too small compared to like a Vel System jungle rig to actually have meaningful sustainment. You can get an MRE in here and an Nalgene. Congratulations. You have slightly more than the amount of snacks I bring on a range trip, right? So it's a lot of GP pouches, but in the same vein, it's actually not that much carrying capability. And to me, this seems like a lot of carrying capability in a very large package, and I just don't need that. I think it would have been okay if this, right, this is the second aspect why I moved away from it. I think it would have been okay if we had these GP pouches and that was that. But the secondary issue is, A, I don't really like how these are configured. There's a lot of organizational like compartments in these things, and it makes it very difficult to take a large item, and put it in and out, right? We have admin pouches where we have it up front and it's got organization, but we can access those. These are a contortion away from being accessible. And it's actually a major pain in the ass because these have so much compartments in them to take it in and out. And that feeds into the big issue I have with this. These hang out for people like me, people like Hop, right where your armpits are. And because chest rigs are something you use for a more high, maybe not high tempo, but high effort scenarios where you're tired or where you're moving through mountains, maybe you're hiking a lot, whatever, right? The whole point is that this is less weight than a plate carrier, but less capability. Having something where your armpits are rubbing against the insides of your arm creates massive chafing issues. And I've done one hike with this, and I'm like, fuck, I can't do this anymore. Too much chafing. It was cool, maybe for vehicle-borne operations, maybe for short away-from-home things, but for me, nah. Yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't a split front pusher, but this is a regular, I don't know if it's Gen 5 or Gen 6 pusher, but Velocity Systems rig. The pusher system, as far as I understand it, basically means that you can replace the mag inserts. So this one's set up for 308. You can also do 5.56, AK mags, or you can replace one of these two cells with a zippered top GP of some kind.
Okay.
No idea why you would do that, because then you're down to 2 mags, particularly if you're trying to run 308. Now you got 40 rounds on tap. That's crazy. But the split front rigs are even bigger than this. This is a big rig. This one goes around quite a bit farther, not quite as far as the Platatac, but farther than a lot. And the split front has got a zipper and a hook system in the front, so you can detach the front, take it off easier, or other reasons people seem to want split front.
Yeah, to vent out air, I guess, like if you're on a big hike, who knows, right? Whatever.
Sure, yeah. I don't know. I don't get it myself, but it takes all sorts. So the downside of the split front rigs is that because they have to have real estate up in the front to add that split mechanism, everything gets pushed farther off to the sides.
Even further, yeah.
The pusher split front also has big GPs on both, sides, and it becomes very similar to the Platatac. This one is a little better for me. It's more properly sized. I mainly got this because I wanted to try to run 308 out of a chest rig. I tried to run 308 on a plate carrier for a hot minute, and that was terrible. But when I got the split front rig, I put it on, was like, wow, no, this thing's way too big. It extends down into my armpits. My backpack is no longer really comfortable because there's interference with the backpack.
Because remember, where the straps go is right about here. So if you have pouches here, it's a very small margin for that to really work out. For sure.
Yeah, but this does have quite a bit of capability. So 4 magazines with bungee retention, several general purpose pouches in an interesting configuration. Thankfully, this only has one pistol/utility pouch. So that's where my multi-tool would go. It's in a different rig right now. GP, medical could go in, 1 GP, notebook stuff, compass, whatever. This chest rig has a very large medical pouch here with a big pull-out medical insert, which is awesome.
Yeah, I like that. I think I need to get me one of those.
Yeah, so you just pull the top off, and then this whole medical insert just pops out like that, and you can butterfly it open and get all your shit, which is cool. One downside to these rigs is that they don't come with this little bungee thing to attach your tourniquet in. You got to buy that separately. And
with $15 shipping.
The shipping costs more than the actual. It's just a piece of fabric and some bungees, and then radio pouch on the side. And the radio pouch is as big as any radio that has ever existed. This is a fairly large Viking radio, and it's still flopping loose in there. So
the civilian industry suffers because the emitter is the standard for the military.
This is probably my second favorite chest rig based on design that I've messed with so far. Except the harness.
Yeah, what I was going to say, what the fuck?
Yeah, when you upgrade to the pushers on the Gen 6s, you get this super wide strap. They call it Ultra Comp. I'm pretty sure it's Hypalon. It's that laminate, plasticky, rubbery feeling nylon. This is weird shit.
It's like paper. I just want to cut through it.
Back up.
Okay. Get me my Onward. Okay, so I'll keep this one short because I've already reviewed this one at this point. This is the Onward Research Buffalo Recce Garanthum rig. Ta-da! And I think it's very simplistic, but that's a good thing because I think the biggest issue with a lot of these chest rigs is the core concept is really good, and you can tell at some point someone at the design phase was like, but what about one more thing? And they put a thing on, and hey, but one more thing, and they put a thing on, and it just gets annoying, right? The struggle we're talking about is, hey, this is a really good rig, except it has this and this.
Extraneous pistol pouches.
And 62 pistol pouches.
But just so 4 pistol pouches on it.
So what this really is 4 magazine pouches and 2 MALDI areas to mount your, whatever the fuck you want. I had a radio pouch and a GP pouch, right? And, at first, maybe 8 mags seems a bit extreme for some people. Some people are all about that shit. Some people want 12 fucking mags and then 8 extra in their backpack. But for some people, 8 might be too much. But the benefits of a flap-style pouch that can expand out like this is you can put other things into it as you deplete magazines, or right out of the get-go, like, fuck it, put first aid in. Let's go. Yeah, you can even put a radio in here.
4 mags across and just do 1 mag per pouch. You could do 3 pouches full of mags, and then smoke grenade, medical insert, radio on the side, medical on the other side, general purpose, a lot of options. Also compatible with the danglers.
Yeah, so this was a smart choice, right? Like, yes, this isn't a micro rig, but why not take use of the large ecosystem that is created by the micro rig? So you can have a dangler. You can run a radio pouch on the inside. You can, do whatever the fuck. You can put your tourniquet in on side and then struggle to take it out. It's great, right? Tons of things you want to do. I don't actually think this is a bad chest rig. If I didn't mess with the current chest rig I'm messing with, this might be my go-to, rig setup. It's very close to a micro rig in form factor, but we ditched the admin pouches. We have a little bit more magazines, and we have, adequate areas to mount extra stuff. And it's nice and small. Even with, double stack magazines, you can go prone. You can do a lot of things that are more difficult with a micro rig. My only issues, and I discussed this in the video, so I'll keep it short. You can see this. These things are just oversized to a ridiculous degree. You can fold them away. You can do a lot of stuff, but they're just kind of annoying in that regard. I don't like the elastic here because it's overly aggressive. It makes re-indexing hell. And really, that's about it. It's a competently designed chest rig, and it has a cute little buffalo on the side. Nice. Okay. I'm incredibly drunk. I've already finished mine. Yeah, you just finished. Okay. We've turned it into a competition, even though I've already had multiple shots. Okay. So I've been calling this the pusher because I'm retarded and really bad at my job. But this is not the pusher. What is this called again?
So this is the rig that I guess we're both just gonna run now because I've been running this one for a while. This is the Velocity Systems hybrid rig. This is basically their quad mag placard plus a little bit of molly on the sides. So it's 4 AR mags. I don't really think you couldn't get AK mags in here. We'll talk about that, I guess, in a bit. 4 AR mags across the middle, 3 GP pouches, and then 2 columns of molly on either side for adding your own expansion stuff. H harness, thankfully it's not made out of weird rubber, just normal nylon like God intended. And yeah, that's it. These are very close to perfect. I really like this chest rig. I've been using this one for a long time. I was running this when we shot SPRs in the desert. Brad picked up one, and
it's one of those things where I asked him initially when I wasn't into chest rigs. I was running micro rigs a lot, and I'm like, hey, I need a chest rig, and he didn't say anything because he wanted me to suffer and go through multiple rigs. And then at the end, after I had bought it builds character. Yeah, after I had bought $800 of fucking nylon bullshit, he's like, "Oh yeah, this is the perfect chest rig." By the way,
a secret. You don't have to do none of that shit.
So yeah, I think this is I like this one. It's the tasteful elegance of this rig. It's not overly designed. It doesn't have feature creep. We got our pouches. We got room to attach whatever GP bullshit we want or radio we want, right? If you don't have a radio, you don't need to attach a radio. If you want extra GP, you can attach a GP. And it's got a respectable amount of magazines without being ridiculous. And
that is, the beauty of the word hybrid, right? Like, similar to the Onward rig, it has a lot of benefits of the Sewn chest rig, that everything is pre-attached for you. Makes it lighter, more durable, cheaper as well, because you don't have to piece it all together yourself. But there's a little bit of modularity on the sides, a little bit of expansion capability.
And it still sits significantly flatter than a micro rig, which needs to, right? Because that's the thing with the micro rig, even though fundamentally it's just, one row of magazines, admin. But micro rigs need to be modular, so there's just so much extra stitching cost and more. If you just go dedicated, right, you get some pretty sizable benefits.
They can be a little bit loud because there's a whole bunch of Velcro shifting around all the time. Third, the pouch has to be sized to accommodate every insert that could ever go in there. So, like the HRT rig,
they're always too small, or
it can accommodate 5 SMG mags with some room on the sides, or 3 AR mags with some room on the sides, or 4 pistol. There just ends up being a lot of room. Same thing with a pusher rig. If you fill it with 308 mag inserts, it's actually a pretty tight, clean fit. If you put the AK or the AR mag inserts in there, now you've got wiggle room on the sides. The whole thing's kind of
and they shift. Yeah, it's not.
And yeah, it's just not as satisfying. These are fairly stiff. These cells are not like reinforced with plastic or anything, but they're still fairly easy to re-index because they are the proper size. There's no excess room or anything like that. However, one thing you'll notice is like these are pretty deep magazine cells. So when I use this chest rig, I usually either use P-mags, which are a little longer, I think, than Stanags, or I use Stanag style magazines with extended base plates. Just helps to get them out of there.
Are those OK Industry Grippin Dots?
These are rare, discontinued OK Industries, Sure Sneeds with the Grippin Dots.
Rest in peace. Too soon.
You can't buy these anymore, by the way.
Don't do drugs. Drink old fashions.
What we learned today.
Okay. Cool. I'll edit that. No, shut the fuck up. The more I run chest rigs, man, I'm really coming around to metal mags. It sounds boomer as fuck. And like, going after the solval. But my god, like, the fact that I can reinsert this one-handed, holy shit. That's nice. You can't do that with a P-mag.
If you make me choose between the micro rig where you're stacking a whole bunch of Velcro and elastic, or just a big Molly placard that I'm sticking a bunch of Molly pouches onto, Molly is still an okay system insofar as it's very durable, it's very strong, it's very stable.
And it makes me want to kill myself every time I have to put...
It's fire and forget. You do it once, you get the pliers out, you just muscle through it, and you're like, all right, well, that was an experience. I don't want to do that again, but I don't have to.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can just find, Molly placards. You can still buy them. Tactical Tailor makes a couple of chest rigs. Again, it's weird to call them chest rigs because they are just Molly, but the Fight Like Mav. They have a split front version, they have a micro version, they have a medium version. You can source all your own pouches, put it together. You're going to end up, first of all, you're going to end up spending a lot. Second of all, it is going to be pretty thick because of all the redundant layers of fabric and the fact that Molly straps on a lot of pouches are weirdly thick, super thick, and they have snaps on them or whatever, like button snaps. Bizarre. You can just build the perfect chest rig with exactly the pouches that you want. And if you shop around for a while and nothing like this jumps out at you, there's things about even this rig that we both like, I think, that we would change, like the fact that you have two weirdly small GP pouches.
I would just want two of these.
Yeah, exactly. Give me two medium GPs because the two smalls and the one medium.
I was configuring this earlier today, so I don't have a lot of time on this guy. Just one drain strip on this guy. But you run enough rigs, you can get a rough idea. And my god, I spent like 30 minutes trying to figure out, Pop, what do I put in here? There's nothing that fits. And we were on eBay trying to find the perfect fucking gauze bandages that would fit in here. So it's not perfect, but I'm beaten and abused, and I just want to have a forever chest rig.
Perfection, yeah. Seeking perfection. I mean, basically you're giving yourself an excuse to never buy a chest rig, and then you won't have any LB, and you won't have a way to carry ammunition other than in your cargo pants. So
it's a lot like LPVOs.
Yeah, it is exactly. You gotta basically at some point just cut your losses and take what you can get. So I mean, like the way that I have this set up, very similar. I have a radio pouch on one side. I have a tourniquet pouch. I really love covered tourniquet pouches. This is my autism. Multi-tool, batteries.
How much alcohol was consumed in that? I started with a fresh...
How many, is that your second beer?
Third beer. Yeah, it's kind of a bitch because we're trying to convey information where we bought a micro rig, a chest rig, what the fuck ever, and then we learned what we wanted out of that thing, and we used that experience to fuck up 7 times, and then finally arrive to something like that. And we're trying to convey some of the experience that we had here. So instead of fucking up 7 times and $1,000 of fucking nylon bullshit, you can fuck up 5.5 times and spend $200 less on this stuff, right? It's just some information regarding you trying to hone in on a nice piece of kit that really just clicks. So
yeah,
here's a little
info you need, and hopefully you can get it right on the second or third try, and not have to keep selling gear on Tac Swap for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and then Onward Research and Haley Strategic do a collab, and then you have to buy that because it's drip as fuck, right? When a Buffalo and when a a mommy buffalo, and a dragonfly.
Daddy dragonfly like each other very much.
All right, cut it. We're done. Stop, please. Look, she's in misery. She can't take
Poor
it anymore.
dog. What the fuck are these people talking about?
Can we pan down a little bit? It's
You don't have to do the thing with the thing, or just do this.
Oh